Man looks into the abyss. There's nothing staring back at him. At that moment, man finds his character. And that is what keeps him out of the abyss. I've heard that before. I never actually looked up the quote, but I recall that was a line in the movie from Wall Street from way back in the day. And that shit hits home. I've been reluctant to make any new videos here recently because candidly, shit got too real for me. And I'm committed to making videos on this channel. I'm committed to sharing my authentic journey. And I refuse to just make a video to make a video. If my heart isn't in it, if I don't think there's value to be shared, or an experience to be shared, or something that somebody else can benefit from, then I'm likely not interested in making the video. And perhaps that's been an evolution, but I felt compelled to make this video this morning because I've been suffering, and I have been looking into the abyss. And everybody's abyss is going to be different, right? But the true character, my true character, I think is revealed as I stare into the abyss and get the gift of being able to make a decision to pull myself up from the bootstraps and remove myself from that ledge, because I don't have to look into the abyss. And a lot of times when I make that, actually, if I'm going to be totally transparent here, the last time I felt like I was standing on a cliff looking into an abyss, a financial abyss, a uncertainty abyss, a massive life-changing abyss, was probably about 11, 12 years ago. And maybe my timeline's off, but the memories of those things, the fear that I felt in those moments in the past, are some of the driving fuels that keep me motivated today to do what I must do to ensure that I don't fall into the abyss. And it's been a long time since I felt that way, but if I'm being totally transparent, that is how I have felt here recently for a while. And no, I'm not wearing a shirt, and no, I didn't comb my hair, and no, I'm not prepped or even attempting to look halfway decent for this video. I literally rolled out of bed and came downstairs and into the vehicle so that I could make this video, which I hope that someone finds some value in. And the abyss that I'm looking at, well, the abyss that I previously feared was a while ago. You know, this is going back over a decade, before my children were born. But when I looked into the abyss and I was standing on that cliff and I was looking down, perhaps considering jumping, or falling into that oblivion, it was predominantly due to fear of uncertainty, fear of the unknown, and being depleted of hope for the future. And back then, honestly, it was more of a fear of falling into financial oblivion. And I had just ended a career. I was embarking on this new journey of being a father, being a husband, and I had been brainwashed to believe that the only thing that I could do to earn an income was what I had previously done, which was to be a stockbroker. And I did have a very specific set of skills. I had grown into a position in that former life where I was essentially the Pied Piper. And I had the corner glass office. I had a team of minions around me. And if you've ever seen The Wolf of Wall Street or heard me talk about this in the past, I had set myself up to be insulated from the real world, from reality. And it was there was a huge high that was associated with that. I was the big man on campus. I was the big man in the office. I was the guy. I was the rainmaker. And I owned that boardroom. So, we had a team of 100+ brokers and junior partners and this, that, and the other thing. But it was I was addicted to that lifestyle. I would walk in and everyone knew it. And so my ego was probably out of control back then, but when all of that was taken away from me, and I've told this story before, so I won't retell it here because I don't want it to be too long of a video, but a series of events happened which removed me from that industry. And thankfully, I had never done anything wrong, so none of this was legal or forced upon me, but it was what I like to call divine intervention. And I got the opportunity to start anew, and thankfully I had some resources. I had some ability to continue to make some moves, and yet I knew that I had limited funds and really only one professional job experience, which I had for 20 years. And the overwhelming sense of doom, fear, and financial oblivion felt so close. It felt so real. It could have been disabling. And yet I remember looking over that cliff into the abyss and did everything in my power to take steps to earn my way out of that, right? So while at first I felt like I was standing on the cliff about to fall over the edge into this oblivion or into this abyss, which seemed like it was completely out of my control, what I learned is that wasn't true. And I very quickly, and it only feels quickly now, but in hindsight, it now feels quickly, but I took every step that I could. I took every positive action that I could to remove myself from that ledge. And it's funny, I say ledge, and suddenly the soundtrack from the movie Juice pops to mind, and Eric B. and Rakim know the ledge. So I won't pop that in here because it will demonetize the video or get some kind of restriction on it. But that's the song that's popping in my mind right now. Now, that was then, this is now. This is a very different situation, but I realize that I'm in a similar spot. And I had hoped that, and honestly, I don't know how this is going to sound, and I'm not looking for anybody to feel sorry for me or any of these things, but I think I finally came to a place of acceptance that I'm staring over the abyss again, and I'm on the ledge, and I'm looking down, and the darkness that I look into is not the same fears. It's not the same uncertainties. It's not any of the same. It's none of what it once was. It's different. And much of it is due to me finally realizing and accepting that the life I thought I would have with my children, the life I thought I would have with my family, extended and otherwise, the life I thought I would have with all of the things that I've worked so hard for since the last time I thought I was looking over the abyss, the sacrifice, the blood, the sweat, the tears, the growth, many of those things that I thought I had earned and secured and was confident and was bolstered by, it seems as though that's just an illusion. And I've had to come to terms with the reality that what I thought my life was going to be is not that. And again, I'm drinking coffee as we speak. So let me kind of get centered here a little bit. When I woke up this morning, in my bedroom, alone, I woke up early. I've got a full day of stuff to do, but this is my first summer having the kids solo. It's our first summer navigating what it's like to be experiencing a summer differently. I did not realize how much I was holding on to the illusion that many of the things that I believed would remain intact in our family simply won't. And I'm not confused, right? Intellectually, I understand what happens when one gets separated, when one goes through and finally gets a divorce. I completely miscalculated the timeline and costs associated with that, but that's a different story. But it adds to my fear of uncertainty. But so I've given up the hope and the want and the desire, and I can truthfully say the last thing that I want is for my wife and I to try to reconcile or try to come back together or any of those things. I don't want any of that. Separately, she's moved on, and God bless her for it, because I learned something in that. And you may have seen some of my videos here recently where I talked about going on some dates and trying to get started in building my new life, my new rituals, my new traditions, my new foundation. But the truth is, I haven't fully been able to do that or even wanted to do that, not in hopes of reconciliation, mainly because I don't think it's right to start a new relationship until the old one is done. But just because that's what I think is right doesn't mean that's what the other people in my life are going to conform to. I've lost a tremendous amount of influence. I've lost a tremendous amount of control. I've lost a lot of many of the things that I identified with and took for granted. And again, not poor me, not woe is me. It's really more a very slow journey into acceptance that so much has changed. And that hurts. That's sad. And it's funny. I don't know that I'm going to read this, but I found this letter This was, I wrote a letter to myself as part of an exercise that I did while at a real estate mastermind. And I wonder what the date on this is. So this was sent to me. I received this a year after I wrote it. I have not opened it since. I don't know that I'll open it now. But I received this April 19th, 2023. It's got my handwriting on it. And in that class, which was a year previous to me receiving this letter, I was asked to write a letter to myself. And in that letter, I created a vision of what I wanted my life to be like, the changes that I wanted to, whatever I wanted my life to be like a year later, I wrote down in that letter. And I think I remember many of the main things in that letter, but I don't necessarily know that I remember all of them. And frankly, I don't. This may be the topic of a different video, but I don't want to unveil it here. I don't really need to, because I know much of what it says. And many of the things that I wrote in that vision for myself in the future, many of those things I have done. And many of those things I have not done. But the quote that I shared in the beginning of this video about the man staring into the abyss and that being where he finds his character, I realized that almost none of what I thought this separation leading to divorce, none of what I thought it was going to be is what it actually has been. And I've talked about this before, but I have not restarted my life. I have not done many things to put the oxygen mask on myself to ensure that I'm optimal so that I can show up the right way for everybody else. And I'm suffering across the board because of it, but I'm also the last one to know that I'm suffering across the board because of it, which leads me to a quick story here. But I was out showing properties 2 days ago, and it just so happened that the neighborhood I was showing is located directly across the street from where my parents currently live. My parents are in their 80s. My parents are in declining health. My parents, who I love dearly, and I know they love me, at times they have been some of the only people that could get through to me, specifically my dad, because he's so old school. He is he's also one of the sharpest, smartest people I know, but he and I are so similar in so many ways that despite our personal differences that have certainly been difficult over the years, when I get glimpses, and he's not always at his best, you know, he's got lots of health issues. Sometimes he's sharp and clear, other times he's not, but that applies to me too, and probably everybody else. But long story short, I finished my showings. I called up. I didn't want to pop in unannounced. And I asked if I could come over and say hello. And I did. Greeted my mother. Did not expect my father to leave his bedroom. He did. And we found ourselves in their living room having a conversation. And I won't bore you with all the details because if you think I like to talk, my dad talks even longer. But there were probably 30, 40 times in his hour dissertation of just, I guess, catching me up to speed with where he's at in his own life. I wanted to leave. I did not want to hear what he was saying. And I was not empathetic. I was not sympathetic. I just was kind of exhausted, and I didn't want to hear the same speech I've heard 100 times. I just didn't want to sit there and voluntarily subject myself to listening to the beating of a dead horse. But I'm so glad that I had the ability to endure it, because towards the end of that conversation, he gave me perspective and another gift, which I'll go into here shortly. Not that I needed, but I will tell you, with a few days of consideration of what he said, I realized what he said really meant a lot to me. It really did have tremendous value. But my dad and I are close. My mom we're as close as we can be, given some of the challenges that we faced over the years. But they were firsthand witnesses to what my marriage was like, as were many other people in our family. But most folks are afraid to talk to me. Most folks are afraid to confront me. Most people don't pack the gear to deliver a hard truth that I might need to hear, might not want to hear, but might need to hear. My dad seems to be the only one who does not suffer from that at all. And although he has learned to pick his spots, I guess, more intentionally, at the end of his dissertation, he said something to me that I rejected at first, but it landed. And he said, "Chris, you must completely let go of all of the things that you have not let go of yet." And my first thought to that was, what are you talking about? I let go of my marriage. I moved out. The fears that were keeping me in the marriage for years longer than I ever should have been. I jumped over those hurdles. The kids, they're okay. Like, I did such a good job, or at least thought I did, in the moment, protecting them. My identity as a father is so deeply embedded in the core of who I think I am that every decision that I make is based with my children first. And now that there are new threats to my influence and my role and my power within the organization that is our family, like, there are major, constant, new things being revealed to me that I don't like. And what I realized is I have to let go of all of them. My parents, who probably should not have, many times in their own marriage, there were plenty of times that they did separate, that it did disrupt our family, that there were move-outs and move-ins. There was lots of dysfunction in the house that I grew up in, but they managed to stay together for the kids. And I tried that to the point. I tried to do that for the kids, thinking it was in their best interest for much longer than I ever should have, up until I realized that it was terminal and toxic to me. And yet, even knowing that, it still took me an enormous amount of time to jump over the hurdle of fear, to get to the other side and make the moves that I made. But I did it. And yet, despite the very short period of time where I felt as if I had achieved the freedom that I wanted, it was such a fleeting sugar high that it's since turned into something very different, something that feels like house arrest. And again, none of this is true. This is just in my head. But within the last few weeks, more things have been revealed, more people have been revealed, and I have found myself spinning out of control mentally. And I've talked about a lot of these things here in other videos. I do work a program of recovery. I do, or at least I used to do many things on a disciplined, structured basis that I've started to get away from. I've started to drift from. I've started to forget how critical it was to my health and well-being. And I know recently I shared about the power of prayer. And I want to just say this. When YouTube content creators who are not particularly religious or spiritual, or it's not the purpose of their channel, and I'm not going to name names, but when I've seen people start to talk about God and prayer in an effort to get more views or grow their channel, it makes me hate them. And I don't really hate anybody, but it creates a repulsion in me, because I don't believe they're being authentic. I think they're doing it to chase views, and I guess I just throw that warning out there, because that's not what this is. What I've learned is that my will and my thinking, especially here recently, can be so bad that it will isolate me. It will convince me that I am worthless and hopeless. And it will have me jump over that abyss. It wants me to. It wants me to fall into that black hole of abyss where I get the opportunity to find my character and define my character and put together the life that I want. Now, I know I'm all over the place here. I appreciate you guys watching. I hope this is helpful, but I'll wrap this up here as succinctly as I can, because I'm starting to freeze here. The air conditioning is, I think I could cut glass with my nipples here. I'm cold, which is unusual for Florida because it has been brutally hot. Anyhow, we finally, it's summertime. Our schedule's different. The kids are now home. I get the opportunity to have them for more time, and yet I still have the responsibility to run a business and do the things that must be done in order to generate income and opportunities for my family. But I haven't been doing that the right way, and not for lack of effort, not for lack of trying, not for not even being aware how much I was victimizing myself or self-sabotaging, but it's impossible for me to show up the right way when I feel like I am losing my family and failing as a father. And while intellectually I may know none of that's true, it's the difference between intellectual understanding and what I feel in my heart are two very, very different things. So I've struggled, and I've done many different things. I've tried to fix this through throwing myself into exercise, throwing myself into a million different other projects, which I like to call shiny object syndrome. I've burned myself out of my own energy in an effort to distract myself from the real problem. And the real problem is that I have not fully accepted and let go of many of the things that I must in order to achieve and earn and build the life that I want moving forward. And my dad in our conversation said it differently. And he said, Chris, you're killing yourself. You don't know it. You're burned up constantly with fear, and the only way you're going to get past that is if you mourn the death of all of those things and allow yourself to mourn those things, but then make a decision to reset, restart, and get into action. Because I know from personal experience that anytime I've done that, I've always succeeded in whatever it is that I intended to focus my attention on. But what's different in this particular example is that despite the resentment prayers, despite this spiritual awareness, despite intellectually understanding certain things, I've fallen right back into the pattern of trying to control everything and everyone and be the puppet master with good intent, right? It's not like if you were to ask me if I think I'm controlling, I would tell you no, I don't think I'm controlling at all. But I believe I'm right. And I can let that go in most instances. I have not figured out how to do that as it relates to my children. And what he suggested to me is, Chris, you got to do that. And now you get the opportunity to enjoy your kids differently than you have in the past. You almost get to pretend or play, and again, I don't necessarily agree with this analogy, but it's the one he used, and it was helpful for me to at least reframe my thinking. He's like, Chris, it's almost as if you get to act like a grandparent now. You've lost the influence that you once had. There's a new threat to your influence that you once had. You don't have many of the trappings of success that you used to. You don't have, I'm not going to go into a laundry list of all the things that I've lost, but when I wake up in the morning, I'm not waking up in our multi-million-dollar house with the giant pool and a lake and a big backyard and lots of space and big, open, and bright and gated security. Well, I've got gated security, but I don't have the entrapments of the things that I once did. And I'd be lying to you if I didn't tell you that works on my psyche. I got a nice place that I'm living in now, that I'm renting now. It is a temporary solution. It was what was required for me to survive when things were at our worst 10 months ago. And I mentioned that our 10-year anniversary gift to each other was to get separated and agree to divorce. But that divorce hasn't happened yet. And in the interim, what I thought would be my success incubator in this new life, in this new place, in this new set and setting, I thought it would unlock unlimited energy and creativity and will to go out there and get mine and rebuild my life. But it hasn't been what has happened. Instead, I've become more and more fragile and more consumed with self-pity that I'm not the father that I thought I was, that I'm not the person who I thought I was. And that loss to my identity has been so painful because I'm looking at it the wrong way. So anyhow, I started to figure this out, although this is like, wow, this is a lot longer than I thought it was going to be. If you're still watching, thank you. I hope you enjoy these videos. I hope you find value. If you do, please subscribe, give it a thumbs up. It helps the algorithm. I'd love for this channel to grow. Leave comments down below. I will get back to you. I know I've been slacking on getting back to some of the comments that are out there. But when it became summertime for my kids, which is now only a little bit over a week ago, I made a conscious decision that I would no longer allow my personal baggage to disallow me to show up the right way energetically for anyone, for my kids specifically, but also for everyone, right? I slowly started to realize I have to let go. I have to let God. And I've certainly prayed more in the last few weeks than I ever have, in ways that I never thought I would. And I've talked about this a little bit in the past. The prayers are very different than they were ever. But anytime I now get a resentment about anything, I pray for whomever that person, place, or thing is, for them to get everything that I want. And I get very detailed in all the things that I want for myself, I also want for them. And I've heard someone say, I've heard people talk about heaven and hell. And it's funny, in the Lord's Prayer, I think there's or in the Our Father, which is the Lord's Prayer, there's a part of that says, on heaven, in heaven, or on heaven. How does it go? You'd think I'd know this better. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. And intellectually, I've understood that really what that means, at least in my interpretation of that, is life here on earth can be heaven if you adhere to certain guidelines, principles, philosophies, and walking a straight line, which is very narrowly defined in many different texts. Or my self-will run rampant can lead me to feel like I'm living in hell every day right here on earth. And is there a heaven in the afterlife? I don't know. Is there a hell in the afterlife? I don't know. I've never passed on to the other side, right? But I can tell you I've certainly experienced moments of heaven on this earth in my life. And I've also experienced living in hell here on earth in this life. And I'm not the smart. I wish I was smarter and I wish I figured these things out faster, but it takes pain for me to it takes a lot of pain for me to get to where I need to be sometimes. And I realize that is God pushing me in the direction that I need to be. So I don't want to belabor this anymore. I do want to wrap this up with the kids. So I've got the kids now. And now they're not in school. They're not in camp. We've made a decision that we want to spend time with them, which is challenging on our work schedules. But I'm so grateful that I made that choice because I can see the benefit of the change in my attitude within my children. And so far we've had a great summer, but I'm going to share this. Recently we watched a movie. This is a few nights ago. We watched the movie Inside Out, and they're going to be doing a sequel to this movie here soon. And hopefully, I think it's Pixar. I think Pixar is owned by Disney. Hopefully they don't fuck up this movie. But this movie is based upon the emotions that exist within everybody. And it starts with a little girl who is brand new, just born. And the first emotion that pops up in this development of her character is joy. And for a period of time, she only knows joy. And then other emotions start to pop in. And then there's anger and all kinds of other things that pop in too. And if you haven't seen the movie, well then spoiler alert. But this cartoon, which is very entertaining and very, at least for me, it was very emotional. As I sat there and watched it with the kids, I saw that the foundations of their emotional stability were all being challenged and were all starting to corrode and disappear in this movie. And She had Family Island and Honesty Island and Happy Island and Friend Island and many other islands in her mind, but they all started to just become destroyed and fall into the abyss. And it was an abyss, which is why, I don't know, all of this seems to tie together. But all of those foundational childhood memories were destroyed as she got older and her emotions started to take over. And I found myself crying like a baby in front of my, not really crying like a baby, but I found myself emotional watching this movie with my children. And of course, they're comforting me and whatever. And I collected myself because I don't want them to think that I'm not okay. And I certainly don't want them to think that they are in charge of taking care of me emotionally. So I paused, collected myself, let them know I'm okay. I just felt sad. And their job is to be kids. Their job is not to take care of me emotionally. But again, how much does that actually sink into a 9 and 10-year-old? I don't know. But they loved me, they hugged me, and they assured me that, they loved me, which is great. But that was a few days ago. And then it stuck with me. So I thought about it. And as I continued to think about it and take action and do the things I need to do to keep the oxygen mask on myself, like do the work in my business and pray and journal and do gratitude lists and talk to other people that I'm friends with and share some of this with other folks, which is really why I'm making this video, which hopefully helps somebody. But then it occurred to me, Chris, this is a movie, and yeah, maybe those islands did disappear. Maybe they were destroyed. Maybe they did disintegrate. Maybe they did fall into the abyss. However, I also have the ability to rebuild them. I can't believe I'm going to use this quote because I don't believe in the politics of it, but I get to build back better new memories, new foundations, a new life for them and for me. And that's powerful. That is motivating. That is exactly what I do want. And so I got a little bit of inspiration from this movie, which I didn't really even intend to watch, but we did. That was a few days ago. Well, they're back with me today and yesterday, and I'll have them, actually, this is my long weekend, so I'll have them for a stretch. They're inside sleeping. But I did something I hadn't done in a while. Yesterday we got hit with a major monsoon. You can't really tell, I'm sure, but like trees are getting blown over. There's debris everywhere. We had a pretty harsh tropical storm yesterday. We desperately needed the rain, and at one point, as I was driving with them in the car, the rain was so bad I couldn't see 2 feet in front of me. I mean, it was a little bit scary for them, not for me, but we were in a hellacious rainstorm. But we got home. And that rainstorm was the reason we didn't go to the beach yesterday afternoon. Instead, we came home. And they're both sitting there looking at me like, what are we going to do? And my daughter gave me some priceless advice. She says, Dad, she pulled me to the side. She says, Dad, I want to let you know, you don't smile as much as you used to. I wish you'd smile more. You're much more handsome when you smile. And not that I was looking for a compliment, but she's right. I don't smile as much anymore. I know I'm not showing up energetically the way I once have in the past. And so it landed. And the weather was nasty, so we couldn't do much outside, but it occurred to me, we can have the best time ever inside. And so I took all of the bed mattresses from upstairs in the bedroom. I created this massive mattress fort area in the living room, and I made a bunch of food. I made pizzas from scratch. I made their favorite, they love Italian hoagies. I got all the stuff, made all the food. We had the best time ever. And what was the movie that they wanted to see while we were This lasted all night, by the way. But one of the movies they wanted to watch again with me was the same movie. They wanted to watch Inside Out again. And we watched it together. And it's funny how just a few days previously, I watched this movie with them and mourned the loss of all the things I blamed myself for in their lives. And then yesterday when I watched it, I got invigorated by the opportunities that I have to build the life I want for myself and them, period. And so it went from a few days ago watching that and feeling defeated and like a loser and feeling like I want to jump into that abyss to, Chris, look at all the blessings you have in your life. And you get the opportunity to do it differently this time. You get an adult do-over with so many other blessings in your life that for me not to recognize that would just be me being ignorant and blind to the fact that there are so many other good things that are happening that I can take advantage, not even take advantage of, maximize. I don't want to take advantage of anything, but I certainly want to optimize and maximize for happiness, joy, security, and a better life for all of us. But that's on me. That's not on them. It's not on anybody else but me and the big man upstairs. Because whatever these growing pains are for me to learn. They are the gift from the universe for me to redirect into a different spot. And if there's one thing that I know for certain is that I got a pretty good track record of earning the things that I focus on. But the things that I'm focused on today are not necessarily the same as they have been in the past. I would be lying if I said they weren't financial, because I recognize I am not in the best position I've ever been financially. I recognize that I've lost a lot. And I recognize that I can become consumed and paralyzed by the fear of more loss, which is just me circling the toilet. Or I can make a decision to get into action and ensure none of those things ever happen. But it's a constant battle. It's a constant struggle. It's a constant redirection. It's a constant forced practice and discipline for me to let go and let God and ask for His will. Because I got to believe that God's will is very different than mine. Because my will, at least so far, has left me feeling isolated, alone, and hopeless in many ways. And even starting to victimize myself in starting to believe that I'm not the father that I thought I once was. And that's not true. In fact, I'm probably a better father than I've ever been. But last night was incredible. We had an amazing time. Both kids are still asleep in our Fort mattresses. I didn't want to wake them up. They don't typically sleep this late. And I'm sure there's a version of me that would wake them up and say, hey, we're going to go to F45 so I can get a workout in. I'm not doing that. I'm going to let them sleep. We're going to have a great weekend. I'll figure out a way to work out some other time. It's not like a workout here and there missed is going to do anything. It's really going to do anything. But I get to choose. Would I prefer to force my will and wake them up and have them, sit in childcare as I do a hour-long workout? Or can I let them sleep? Can we have an amazing morning? And I'll just get it in some other time. Maybe it won't be a F45 class. Maybe it'll be something different. But I don't have to impose my will on them today. I can let them sleep. And honestly, while I laid there with them this morning and I'm watching them sleep, they're so peaceful. They're so beautiful. They are little angels, even though they're also savage little minions. But that's my choice. I want them to sleep. I want to build more happy memories. I want to max out this time. And I know the time is limited, right? Everybody's time is limited. So I really want, actually, holy crap, I'm talking for 50 minutes already. It occurred to me recently when visiting with my sister, and we ate dinner over there. Her family's great. They live close. But we tucked in my nephew for bedtime. And my kids were there with me. And couldn't help but notice that their bedtime ritual, he's 3. My nephew's 3. But their bedtime ritual is very similar to what I did with my kids every night of their life. And there's prayers, and there's reading of books, and there's telling stories, and there's so much love, and it's so cute. But they have this full-on ritual that they do, which is probably, depending on how much it gets milked, anywhere from 30 to 40 minutes. But it's magic. And I got to be part of that. And at the very end of it, the entire family came in for a group hug, which we were included in. And it was actually the gasoline I needed for my soul. And maybe gasoline's the wrong term, but it was the fuel that my soul needed, because it reminded me of what's truly important. And it also reminded me that I've done that every single night of their life. But here's the twist and the shocker. At the end of it, as we were going home to leave, my daughters and I are getting in the car, and one of them, if not both of them, I don't exactly remember who, but they said, "Daddy, I really wish we would do something like that." And I was astounded, because we've done that almost every night of their life, their entire life, including recently. Not exactly the same, because they've gotten older, but it just hit me. They don't remember this. They don't remember the 10 years of morning rituals, evening rituals, and God knows what else they don't remember. But it was as if they completely forgot that we've been doing that for years. And it made me sad that they don't remember. But it also taught me a very valuable lesson, which is, it almost doesn't matter what I've done till this point with them in some aspects, because they don't remember many of the things. They're going to judge me and remember me based on how I show up today. And if I'm not the guy who's the hope broker, if I'm not the guy who is emanating happiness, if I'm not optimal, if I'm not showing up the right way with the right energy for my children, well then chances are they're not going to ever know that person. They're not going to remember who I once was. They're just going to remember this grumpy dad who is, according to my dad, a guy who doesn't smile a whole lot. And that's not what I want for myself. It's certainly not what I want for them. And I get to learn that lesson, and I'm so grateful that I did, because it is a priceless lesson. That's a gift that I get to learn from, and I get to course correct. And I have. So last night was great. Every day is great. I love my kids. If nobody's told you that they love you today, just know that I do. And please know that no matter what it is you're going through, no matter how painful it may seem, no matter how close to the abyss you think you might be, and maybe you're in the abyss, just know that you don't have to stay there. You can make a decision every single second of your life to pull yourself out by the bootstraps and trudge the path to happy destiny. It won't be easy. It certainly will take a lot of work, But whatever that sacrifice is, whatever must be done, is my honor, is my privilege, is my responsibility, and I can't wait to do that. And so I've got some momentum. I'm on the right track, but I don't think I have felt this level of freedom or excitement with this new version of my life in a while. And maybe I never felt it this way, but my marching orders are clear. My purpose is clear. My path, which has narrowed, is clear. And I get the opportunity to do that every single day. And that will be a joy for me. So shout out to Kevin247 because he left a comment on my last video saying do a sequel. Well, I don't know if this is exactly the sequel, but it certainly is the follow-up. But Kevin's a great friend. Michelle's a great friend. Please check out their channels. His channel name changes often these days, but I'm pretty sure it's Kevin or at Kevin247. It may be at Kevin and Michelle or Michelle and Kevin, or it's Squirrel Tribe, or it's Squirrel Tribe 2.0, or it's Squirrel Tribe Life. You won't go wrong with any of those channels, but these folks are great friends, and you guys are great friends. I'm thankful to have all of you in my life, and I'm thankful to be alive today with this reset, renewed, rejuvenated purpose. So that's it. Love you all. Go out there, win the day, win the week, win the year. And please leave comments down below. I will get back to you. If you've got any particular content requests, let me know. I'm going to start doing some new things on this channel. I'm going to start doing some live streams so we can participate on a more intimate basis. I'm going to roll out some memberships here, which will be very affordable, but it'll allow us to connect better if you want. But I'd love that. And that's it. This has been a long one. Talked for damn near an hour. So I hope you found it useful. And if not, that's okay. Just know I love you.